Hi, I'm Joanna.
Hi, I'm Audra Bartlett.
We are both life coaches, and Audra is a success coach. Audra, who do you help and why?
I am a success coach for entrepreneurs, creatives, and visionaries. They're high performers that recognize they can give 5 to 10% of really what they're capable of and create extraordinary results. But they recognize that there is more for them, that they've been living in a place where things have kind of gotten fine and they really want to bring something bigger to the world. They have a vision for a larger life and they don't know how to move towards that. So the question I have for them is, with that recognition, how then do you define success for yourself? What often happens is somebody comes to me in a place where they're not entirely clear anymore what they want. They have had some level of success already. Maybe they're doing quite well. They've made money. They've maybe redirected their career. They may have even gotten to the place that they thought that they wanted. And um, it's no longer in any way satisfying to them. They don't know why. What success looks like for them is a process of realigning with their inner truth, recognizing what is a priority, how to move from the place of knowing what that priority is, and often clearing a lot of the clutter that's been put on top of them by society, other people's opinions, partners, friends, telling them what they should and should not want in their lives. Um, and finding at the core of that what it really does look like for them.
Yeah. And what is it about your lived experience that makes you the right person to help?
Yeah, so I am a self-proclaimed multi-passionate serial entrepreneur. I, as a child, even was the type of person to come up with little business ideas and try to get aunts and uncles, moms and dads all involved with my grand ideas. And when I looked back on that about myself, there was evidence everywhere that this was the person that I was going to eventually become. And so I've continued to reinvent, re examine, and not be afraid to release a business or a direction that was no longer serving me. I remember even at one point, I was working with my first coach, and she had me do the Marie Kondo method on my business at the time. So I released it with joy and love and appreciation for what it had done for me, and then recognized that the next version of myself was going into a different business. Um, so I'm very familiar with transition, with making brave, bold decisions, and the sheer energy, kind of startup energy that's required when making a shift, when creating a business or a creative project, or really just um, moving into that bigger vision. There's a lot that comes up in that process um, that people don't always know how to manage.
Are you talking about setting goals or creating the new vision, maybe starting from a dream? What if I could do that? Then there is this idea, the vision, and finally it becomes goal, real goal. So what is it about the process of goal setting and reaching the goals that you find interesting?
Yeah, so this is something that I've spent a lot of time exploring and researching and trying out for myself and with others. Traditional goal setting, I really feel falls short. Um, Statistically speaking, most people don't even write down their goals. So the people I work with usually have at least written down their goals. They know generally or are willing to re-examine and know exactly where they want to go. But usually that's where people stop. And even if they go to the extent of the SMART method, which, which is, I can't remember the acronym exactly, but the essentially we're setting something that's measurable, time bound, realistic, etc. Even within that, you set the goal, you set the time frame, you see how you're going to measure it, and then you set up a whole bunch of actions that will be taking place. Which is even further, right? You've got all of this written down, but what is missing is actually in my mind, a lot of the human component in achievement. It's the human component of we are inherently emotional beings, and we have very real fears and very real reactions. And when we look at something that feels really big, sometimes we look at it as eating the whole elephant. And we're terrified of that whole elephant. And that fear in and of itself will stop people from even moving towards it. And so it's not enough to just say, I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyways. It's all the nuanced things behind it, the insecurities, the disappointments that come up with each step, with each redirection, and with each time that we do something that doesn't work out on the road to the attainment of it.
I think that a big part in setting goals and reaching the goals is, like you said, the insecurities, because you try to find the evidence of what can you do. And very often we look back at what we have done in life already, and sometimes we are not very kind to ourselves and our past, and we only look at what we messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So we take that experience from the past as the evidence of who we are, and then we block ourselves from growing, from reaching these goals. But this is actually preventing ourselves from growing and from evolving and changing on the inside. Because isn't it true that when we do something new, we are going to change as a person through this experience?
Yeah, and that stepping into the next version, right? That's a lot of, and what do I mean by that? It's that when you have the identity as the person that you are currently existing as, and then you set a goal that is something that you've never been, done, or had, you have to shift from that person that you're currently existing as into the person that has the thing that you want. And that process requires levels of shedding the past, shedding what you knew, shedding the ways you think these things can happen. And that process can be difficult because there's pieces of yourself, your ego, there's the comfort, there's the things that the brain likes to offer to keep us safe, that help pull us back, or make us feel more comfortable looking at what we've done before to create evidence or try to create evidence for what we're capable of doing. And it really requires looking at all the things that you are doing in the vision of the future you. And it can become a nuanced process. Like, it's even down to what toilet paper you're choosing to buy, and whether you're shopping at a particular grocery store, or what people you're choosing to interact with, what you're choosing to read and consume, how much time you're giving to your taking care of your body. Like, it's a nuanced process, and people often think that they can go from current version to future version just with the idea of what they want. And it's really creating it's like creating this really beautiful painting that with each brush stroke, you get closer to the full picture.
What is the benefit of having a coach in this process?
Sure. So one of the things I like to say is that, I've even been on discovery calls with people where they've said, I think I can just do this. I think I can do this myself. And I like to ask, well, if that was the case, why haven't you done it already? If you knew how to get yourself from where you were to your big vision, why haven't you taken those steps, right? And even beyond that, why would you want to do it the slow way? When to get myself to this place that I'm at was a long road. It was 10 to 15 years of personal development work. It was a decade worth of therapy. It was countless coaches. It was hundreds of self-development books. And I have now put all of that together, and I'm offering that to somebody, all of these years of knowledge and expertise and trial and error and failures myself. And I'm saying, let me help you get to where you want to go faster. So I'm not saying that someone's not capable, but why would you want to take 10 to 15 years to do it when we could get into a one-on-one container for 6 months to a year and get you to where you want to go a lot quicker. And then there's just things that happen within a safe container. People are able to talk about things that they have nobody else to talk about, or we're too afraid to talk about. And knowing that they are safe, they are heard, and that this is a place where they can be and do that is really also very transformative. It allows some of those things that live inside of us that become kind of like this. I'm thinking of like a little ball of like poison within us, right? And we don't really acknowledge it. We don't really want to talk about it. But it's kind of existing there. And if we're able to express it, it's heard, and we're able to move through it, we become lighter. Things shift for us. Our energy shifts, and we didn't even realize that that thing we were holding back was holding us back from the next level for us. Sometimes the connection between one thing and another thing can't be made from inside, because we are not able to see how all of the things that we're carrying and thinking about and interacting with is affecting the place that we're going. And so having somebody looking at that whole picture and able to make the connections for us is also incredibly valuable.
It's priceless. Everything that you said, I so agree with this. And I experienced it myself. I witnessed it in other people. There is a moment, I would call it magical moment, but it isn't. It's simply how it works. There's a moment when somebody expresses something in safe environment they never expressed before. I love it when we find those, whether they are limiting beliefs or simply thought errors, the thoughts that somebody finally expresses, or their fears, They even didn't realize consciously that they are afraid of those things. When somebody says, I know it doesn't make sense, but we have something valuable, because the conscious mind, the reasoning mind thinks this makes no sense, but deep inside in the psyche of that person, this makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when they express it in safe environment, this is when things start shifting and it's no longer so heavy for them. But you said you sometimes hear from people, I can do it myself. What do you think? Is this possible that when people never worked with a coach, are they afraid of something?
Usually it's about the things about themselves that they're not willing to face. And sometimes that comes down to whether or not they think that they're worth investing in. People often can justify investing in new gutters or investing in paving the driveway or investing in even a new purse. But they, for some reason, have a block around spending money that, quote unquote, feels selfishly purposed to themselves and their mind and their experience. And that is both the fear of what they'll have to be accountable for, what that's going to look like, the work that's going to be done, the discomfort, and sometimes the conversation to just say I hired a life coach, and having people judge that. Yeah, so I think the idea that like an investment in yourself is a selfish thing is quite the contrary, unless you redefine the idea of selfish. Putting yourself first or investing in yourself is the most valuable thing you can do, because anything else you invest in outside of, say, education, which is investing in yourself, any gutters, any purses, any of those things, or even investments, say, in real estate or the stock market, those are still investing outside of you. And when it comes down to what you're capable of, what you're capable of creating, how much money you're able to have, how much success you're able to have, if you invest in yourself and your mind and your abilities, that will expand exponentially. So you can have more purses and you can have more houses and you can have more of all of those things if you look to the core of who actually created any of that to begin with.
True.
And when that expands, then anything else you can possibly desire expands.
This will change a daily experience, that daily internal experience, because sometimes things may seem hard and we get used to them being hard. But when we manage our mind, when we know what to do inside of our minds, we can completely change how to navigate everything, the relationships, the money, the time, in a different way from inside out, because we changed our mind. So that's the most profound change for me. Internal experience.
Yeah, and and to that, it always has and always will come from within us. So the current life that we're living is a reflection of what we believe about ourselves, what we believe we can have. And it does, when you start to figure out what is truly for you, what you really want, what success really looks like, because that success may not be having more things, it may be having more time.
Exactly.
It may be having more energy, it may be having more of any of those things, and giving yourself permission to want those things, right? And then it does change your daily experience. It does change not just your mind around how you're feeling, how you're interacting with people. It changes the outer experience. It changes the quality of your relationships. And so many people look at the idea of success as business and money. And yes, I help with business and money, but success is a whole life thing. Success is every aspect of that life. It is how you feel about your relationship with your spouse, right? It is the amount of time you spend with your children. And recognizing that when you get all of those things clear, then your capacity to expand your business or your creative venture expands. And so I think a lot of people, coaches and otherwise, can miss that piece. They concentrate too exclusively on the actions in the business, and yet somebody's hemorrhaging over to the side in a miserable relationship, right?
Can you share one of your personal biggest transformations?
I think, let's see, one of my biggest ones. I think for me, it was the shift in identity from when I was growing up. My family had very limiting beliefs about money. It was very much an us versus them game. It was there's us, and then there's the people that have money. There's us and the people that dress nice. There's us and them, and we are not them, and we could never be them. It wasn't said so explicitly to me, but it was understood. And it was also really ingrained in me that hard work was the only way to be successful. That you had to give of all your time, your physical body, your energy into work. And I had done that. I had been the person. I was working in restaurants. I had opened a bakery. I was working 50 to 70 hours a week, every single week. I would sometimes wake up and think to myself, I only have 14 hours to get through today, or I have 16 hours in this day. I would wake up thinking about how many hours of work was in front of me. And I kept thinking, well, surely, like, I'm doing something, I liked baking, right? I'm doing something that is enjoyable, right? It's enjoyable for me. Why am I not waking up like ready to bound out of bed in sheer joy through doing the thing I'm passionate about? And there were so many recognitions within that journey of having the bakery, working in restaurants, and then hiring a life coach who really showed me how to become the next version of myself. And that shift was into real estate for me. And I remember when I started out with that, I couldn't wrap my head around what any of that means, because nobody in my family had really gone out of the box in the way that I was doing it. There was no path or example laid out in front of me. So not only was I shifting my internal identity, I was also shifting the identity of the family. And I was letting go of the idea that I had to sell my time for money, that I was only capable of making as much money as how much physical exertion I put out. The idea that my mind was incredibly valuable and people would pay me for that. That for me was like the kind of the biggest point that I looked to as a shift from that to this. And that wasn't the last one, but it was the one that allowed me to then go on and become the first person in my family to make 6 figures in a year. The person that could work 15 hours in a week and be incredibly successful just on that. Yeah, so that for me was one of the biggest points of transformation. And I'm not done yet.
I know you are not. So this is all really exciting, and this way you are an example of what you teach other people. You are an example of those incredible identity shifts and always reaching for more and more and more, reaching for more of your potential, and you are not done yet because your potential is always expanding. What do you think is one of the most popular misconceptions about coaching?
People in general don't entirely even know what a life coach is. And like any industry, there are people that are good at it and people that are not so good at it. And I think people don't understand the place in which life coaching actually picks up from other personal development work. I think they think they're just people that generally help you with your life, which on a base level is true. But the piece where life coaches really come in is when people want to go present to future focused. You know, therapy addresses past to present in a lot of ways, but often misses the mark on the present to future. And the recognition that there really is a space that is so valuable to have a life coach in. And that, you know, the good ones really spend a lot of time training and understanding and learning and delving into their craft the same way that any other profession does. There are years of trainings and researching and understanding and practicing that goes in. And I think we have a really special place. And we typically say the hard things. Like when you think of a coach, I always like to give the example of a football coach, right? Where you see them out there on the field and they're saying the hard things to those players that nobody else is going to say to them. They're not letting them get away with anything because they can see their potential and they can see what they're capable of. And so they're out there saying, I see you and I see how I can help you. And this is what I'm going to say to you to make that possible. And that's the same thing with most coaches, right? We're going to say the things that your friends, your family, your peers, anybody is not going to say to you to help you get to your potential. We're not there to just coddle you in that moment. We're there to help propel you.
The coach sees the potential of the other person and of the player, and they will not let that player to play below his capabilities. And what I notice also, what happens for me in coaching, somebody is in front of me, they are going to argue why they cannot do something. They're going to present to me a list of their limitations. And at the same time, because they shared also with me their goals or what they want, they are not happy with their potential on this level. So they actually want more. So our job is to see the person's potential and not buy into the limitations and the excuses that people present to us. Though I'm using the word excuses in a different sense, because sometimes people have excuses and they actually do not want to do anything else. They don't want to put any work. But sometimes people say things that sound like excuses, but I hear something else. I hear this. Here is what I'm afraid of. Help me get through it. Please reassure me that this will not happen. Please reassure me that this limitation is doesn't mean that I will never get where I really want to get. So that's why I see the excuses in a different way, because they can be unpacked and let go of. So yeah, it's definitely seeing the person's potential that is so important in this.
Well, and to that, right? I think of myself as like the why not coach, right? When people are thinking about what they want to do, and you present the idea of or the question, why not? Like, why is that not possible, or why not? They give an entire list that's arguing against themselves, arguing against what they can do. And I'm the person that says, why not, in an empowering way, to say, like, why not? Let's just do it, right? And all of the things you just told me for why not you can't, I'm going to go through each one of those and tell you why that one's not true and that one's not going to stop you. And we're going to go through that entire list and get to the place of, like, you know what, why not? Let's go ahead.
If somebody wants to work with you, how do they find you?
Sure. I am at audrabartlett.com, or email at audrabartlett.com.
Okay, is there anything else that you absolutely need people to know?
Whatever the biggest version of yourself that you can think of for your life right now, it can be even bigger. It can be so big and bold that it brings tears to your eyes, thinking about how proud you are of everything that you've become. And I want that for so many more people. I want people to be brought to tears over just seeing the beautiful life that they've created. And it is possible for them.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. You are such an inspiration. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.